Greetings and welcome to week 5 of COMM 110, Fundamentals of Public Speaking. Believe it or not, we are about a quarter of the way finished with our semester as of this week. And so we are plugging right along. By now, here in week 5, you should be used to our normal grouping of coursework items that we have, our chapters and the quizzes and the discussion forums that we've been doing, as well as the periodic minor speeches, which you've now done 2 of. This week, the 2 chapters that we're going to be studying are Chapter 7 on research and Chapter 8 on finding and using supporting materials in a speech. Hopefully, a couple of things have become evident to you. One of which is that the structure of the chapters and the order in which we're going through the chapters is sort of a building block approach in terms of you gaining the knowledge that you need in order to become an effective public speaker. We started out by learning a little bit about selecting topics, audience analysis last week. Now this week we're moving on to doing research, which would be and will be for you guys the next step in creating a speech. In the upcoming couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at creating speech outlines and speaking notes. We're going to be looking at a number of other things in the next stages. And then the last chapter that we'll have before you do the informative speech will be on speech delivery. And of course, by that time, you will have delivered 3 minor speeches: the speech of introduction, the personal item speech that you did last week, and the speech of definition, which you're going to do next week. And so the other thing that hopefully is becoming evident is that in the progression of these minor speeches, you are doing speeches, delivering speeches that are gradually more sophisticated, gradually have more elements sort of in place in terms of preparation, in terms of what you're going to need to submit. For instance, the speech of definition next week is the first one that you're going to have to hand in, submit to me your preparation paperwork. And then also in terms of length, gradually increasing in length. The speech of definition, the guidelines, we're not doing it, you won't deliver it and submit it until next week, but the guidelines are available if you want to look at it this week. The speech of definition will have to be between 3 and 4 minutes in length. Which is about half of the length of the major speeches, which are between 6 and 8 minutes in length. So, Chapter 7 and Chapter 8 are our chapters this week. You have the quiz on each of those chapters, which you should study for using the reading guides for the individual chapters. We have a discussion item this week, or a discussion forum rather, with just one topic. And then there's 2 other things that you should be working on this week, in which I need to say a few words about. The first of these is your first speaker critique paper. If you remember, you have 4 total of these speaker critique papers over the course of the semester. Next Friday night on February 8th is going to be the due date for your first speaker critique paper. Now these, of course, are short papers in which you will attend a public speaking performance in wherever you live, in an online class. You know, people live in a wide variety of different areas and different size communities. But you're going to have to attend public speaking performances, take some notes while you're there or shortly after you've seen it, using the guidelines that I've given you, and then write up a relatively short 2-page paper just critiquing that particular speaker. So you should just follow those guidelines. You've got them. I put another link to them in this week's homepage. And let me know if you have any questions about what you need to be doing for the speaker critiques. A couple of final uh, bits of advice on the speaker critiques. One is that make sure that you've got a full 2 pages for these speaker critiques. 2 pages is not a lot of material. It's really very, very short paper. And if you're doing the critique of the speaker properly, you should have no problem whatsoever filling 2 pages of double-spaced type. And if you don't have, pretty close to a full 2 pages, you're going to lose some points because if you don't have a full 2 pages, it means that your critique is probably not in depth enough. Make sure also that the performance that you have chosen to write about fits the definition of public speaking as we learned it here a few weeks ago. Let's see. So if you have any questions about those particular parameters or requirements, let me know. And then the one final thing is that you do have the option of doing one of your 4 speaker critiques on a video speech that you can watch either on television or that you look up on YouTube. There too, make sure that it fits the definition of public speaking. There's a lot of stuff, especially on YouTube, that you can find and watch that is not public speaking. People just speaking to their webcams and so forth, or things that where they might be talking to other people, but they don't meet the definition of public speaking in other respects. So if you both in-person performances that you are attending and video ones, if you have any question or doubt about it, let me know and I will give you a clarification as to whether or not it sounds like that particular performance counts as under the definition of public speaking. And then one final point about the video one is you have that option to do the one video speech, but you can do only one video speech over the course of the semester and the 4 speaker critiques. So if you use that option for the video speech on your first speaker critique, it means you're not going to be able to do another one later on in the semester. So it might be a good idea. I often advise people to sort of save that video speech if possible, in case you end up in a pinch later on and don't have something that you can attend. But certainly you can use the video one this first time as long as you realize you won't be able to do another video one later on. Then the final thing that I want to talk about at a little bit of length here in this week's intro video is the broad topic that you are going to be selecting for your major speeches. Now, in this week's coursework, you will be submitting a list of 5 potential broad topics, 5 broad topics that might possibly work for you as your single broad topic for the semester for your major speeches. So how this is going to work in terms of just the broad topic in general, once you've selected your single broad topic, is that you will have that broad topic and you will use that broad topic for all 3 of your major speeches for this class: the informative speech, the visual aid speech, and the persuasive speech. All 3 of those speeches that form the major elements of coursework and speaking that you're going to be doing for the class. And then you will be, for each of the 3 individual major speeches, you will be developing a more specific topic spun off of or related to that broad topic. So let me give you a few examples. A few of the broad topics that students have had in my class before are things like animals or motorcycles or football. This is the level of generality that you should be thinking of and working at when you are going through this process that we're going to be going through over the next week or 2 of deciding upon your broad topic. You want to keep it at that level of generality so that you have a pretty high degree of flexibility in terms of developing more specific topics for the individual speeches. It doesn't have to be quite that broad. Another example of a broad topic that I've had somebody do in the past is Apache culture. This was an individual who had that ethnic heritage in his background with his ancestors and so forth. And so he chose Apache culture as his broad topic, and you can see how that one is a little bit narrower than the other ones that I mentioned, but still offers a pretty wide degree of flexibility in terms of developing specific topics for the speeches. And so let me give you just an example of one person's specific topics that they developed from their broad topic. I had a student, I've had a couple students, I think, who used animals as their broad topic. One of those students, for her first speech, she did a speech on the organization PETA, preventing ethical treatment of animals, whatever PETA stands for. That was her informative speech. For her visual aid speech, she did how to raise rabbits, or aspects of raising rabbits in your own yard, and she had imagery in that visual aid speech of hutches that you're supposed to use, feed and so forth for raising rabbits, and those were the visual aid elements. And then in the persuasive speech, I think I mixed it up a little bit. The persuasive speech, she did something about PETA in terms of protecting animals, and her informative speech was, what do you need to do to become a veterinarian? So informative speech, requirements for becoming a veterinarian, visual aid speech, raising rabbits, and persuasive speech, promoting the organization PETA. So that's an example of the specific topics that one particular individual developed from the broad topic of animals. So what you're going to do this week is develop or create a list of 5 potential broad topics, out of which you will choose one of those broad topics as your single broad topic. And what we'll do next week is, in our discussion forum, we're going to have, you'll have the opportunity to discuss 2 sort of finalist broad topics and tell the whole class a little bit about what your existing knowledge and experience is on those 2 topics, and then you'll submit to me what your choice is for your final single broad topic. But one of the requirements for all of the topics that you're going to consider as your single broad topic is that these should be subjects about which you already have got a pretty significant amount of existing knowledge and experience. These should be subjects that you are familiar with, that you have experience with. They could be hobbies or interests that you've had for a number of years growing up, and maintain still while you're in college. They might be something that's related to the profession that you're training for. If you have a particular major and profession that you're planning on going into, it could be something related to that. But they should all be things that you have got a decent base of existing knowledge and experience with. Because if and when you are ever going to speak publicly or do a public speaking performance in the quote-unquote real world, once you're done with this class, it is probably always or virtually always going to be on things that you know about, whether that's a hobby or leisure pursuit, or whether that's something related to your job or your profession. When people give speaking performances, real speaking performances in the quote-unquote real world, it's about things that they know about. That's why they are giving the speaking performance or the speaking presentation. And so those are conditions that I try to recreate within the context of this class on learning how to become a public speaker. One other benefit of speaking about things that you know very well is that it helps to lessen anxiety. If you are a person who uh, experiences some speaking anxiety when you're speaking, speaking about something that you are very confident, at least about your knowledge about, then that is going to help lessen your anxiety as you're speaking. So, as always, let me know if you have any questions, if you have anything that you're wondering about in regards to this process of selecting this broad topic or the purpose of the single broad topic. And what you're going to need to hand in then this week is a list of 5 topics that are these subjects that you have a good existing base of knowledge about. So you should have 5 individual topics. And then for each of those topics, and this is very important, for each of those topics on the document that you submit to me, on each of those topics, you should have just a brief sentence or two explaining to me what your existing base of knowledge and experience is with each of those topics, so that I know where you're coming from, which ones maybe are better than others, as far as which ones might make good broad topics. And I will give you feedback then on that list of 5 topics, and sort of say which ones I think maybe wouldn't be as good of an idea, or if you have maybe not pitched the topics at the right level of broadness, help you there, and so forth. So that's one of the main things that we're going to be doing this week, along with all of our other coursework. So with everything that we're doing this week, if you have any questions, please let me know.